customary for us at funeral services to hear a little about the deceased. And so, I'll tell you a little about our dad, Burchell. When a life is ushered into the world, it brings joy and happiness for the most part. Those are the emotions of Abraham Duhaney and Beatrice Bennett, who was later Duhaney also, when they held their newborn baby, Burchell Augustus Duhaney, in their arms on the 18th of May, 1943. He was born in the district of Point Hill, and that was in the beautiful parish of St. Catherine, and that's Jamaica. Some of us are Americans, so we may not be familiar with it. So that's in Jamaica. He attended Tulla Primary School, and then of course moved on to secondary level school. Now in those days, children who did not have the opportunity to go to a tertiary institution, a college or something like that, they were always encouraged by their parents to learn some sort of skills or a trade, as most persons would refer to it back then. One of the skills he possessed was that of welding. In fact, he was a certified welder. Now, it's the dream of most young persons as they're approaching adolescence, getting a little older. Plans are made as to how they envision that their future, how they want it to be. And sometimes it goes like this. You want to complete high school, attend a tertiary institution, college, university. You want to obtain a career, get a good job, get married, have a good family, and live happily ever after. That's how we plan it a lot of times. But as most of us know, life does not always play it out the way we would love for it to happen. And I would want to think, no doubt, that that was some of what my father had in mind, but those dreams did not materialize in that order. In his early years, as a lot of young people do, or most young persons, he seemed to have focused on, pretty girls. And so he told me how my mother was a really pretty lady when she was a teenager. And so somehow they got involved. And at the tender age of 18, can you imagine, he became a father. And of course, I was his firstborn, Olive. He's standing here. At that tender age, a lot of people don't even know where they're heading at that tender age. But somehow he became a father. And by the time you know it, 2 years later, well, he enlarged his family because Carol, my sister right there, she was on the way. Now, with 2 children and not much money, and being young, that's really serious struggle. So I guess he had to think about how he would earn an income then to take care of his family. So he, started to work, doing all kinds of things. But one of the things that he had decided to do was to migrate from St. Catherine into Kingston, which is the capital city of Jamaica, where, there's always more and better opportunities in the city. So he went there for work, and he was working at Barclays Bank at the time, and so he worked for a time and tried to take care, of what little he could do. Now, he was always seeking better opportunities because he was an ambitious person, and so in his mid-20s, he got an opportunity to migrate to the United States of America. And of course, he has lived here up to the time of his death. Now, at that stage of his life, that would be a major transition, moving from your country, going into another country, and all of that. But that was not the only transition that was made. He also found a new love when he came to the United States, and so he met and married Dorothy. And of course, that union produced two children, Andrea and Mark. And I must stop here to apologize for them not being here. They're living in Philadelphia. They tried desperately to be here today. I suppose they are grieving right now because they are really not here. But some circumstances beyond their control really caused them not to be here. So they're missing today for that reason. So he lived in Philadelphia for a number of years where he worked. He worked as a professional welder. And this type of work really started affecting his eyes. And so he had to find different work. He then became a taxi driver. But even then, he was still looking for other opportunities. So he eventually found employment in a lab where he worked very hard while he was in Philadelphia to take care of his responsibilities. Now, I want to think that when I speak to my father, I think for him, falling in and out of love was a kind of hobby. Because after that marriage to Dorothy, somehow, things didn't work as they wished to. And he then fell in love again, this time with Barbara. And of course, that union produced a very beautiful daughter sitting right here in front of us, Alina. Alina was really the baby of the family. She is the baby of the family. And my father just loved, I don't know persons in Jamaica, you know what they call wash belly. Wash belly is really for the ladies, but when you're the last child, you're referred to as wash belly. And I suppose, having had some failures with children and, those relationships were concerned. I just think my father just loved Alina passionately, right? And he took care of her, and he always spoke about her, spoke about his love for her and all of that. So he then decided to move again from Philadelphia, and he came to Florida to live. So Alina was born in Philadelphia, but then they decided to migrate to Florida this time. So this is where he lived up until the time of his death. Now he continued to work, but this time while he was in Florida, he was working with LabCorp. And this is where he continued to work until his retirement some years ago. The early retirement was triggered by failing eyesight because he was a diabetic, again, amongst other things. So he retired at some point after that. Now, there are a few things that I like to say about my father, what I really observed him to be. I think he was an ambitious person. You could see that and observe that. He was one who liked the finer things of life. He was a very disciplined person, so he didn't want any kind of rowdy behavior around him. He didn't relish that kind of thing, right? And he didn't like when things were out of order. I think he was very neat, and he would look about his clothes for himself because he feels nobody could do his laundry and iron his clothes quite like him. So even when my sister was living with him and offered to iron his shirt, thought she was, helping him out, he promptly tell her no, that was okay. He thanked her for, offering, but he wanted to do those things for himself. And he always loved, his colognes, like smelling real good. When he goes to bathe and everything, I mean, you wonder what he's doing in the bathroom for so long, probably sometimes close to an hour. So if you were planning to go anywhere, it would have been best, to get there before him. I think one of his favorite cologne was Burberry. So he always, tried to ensure that, he is looking quite slick and smelling quite right. So he loved a good life. He loved to laugh. And trust me, I like to laugh also. So I think that trait is definitely from him. He would just laugh, started to give a joke, and all of a sudden he's laughing, you don't get the joke yet, and he's there killing himself with laugh, and you're wondering, well, come on, pick the joke. But he gets the joke long before anybody else, so, he had a good spirit in him where that was concerned. Now, he loved the sport of kings, as some people would call it, or the king of sports, and of course, that's racehorsing. He loved to watch the horses race. He not only watched them, he would, bet on them also. He wouldn't pass up an opportunity to go to the racetrack. He liked that. He also, I knew him always buying the lottery because he always had big plans of winning the lottery. And believe me, I'm still waiting for my share of it because I don't know him winning anything from the lottery. But he loved those kind of things. He loved to watch soap opera. For some reason, some men do not like soap operas, but he found something in soap operas. The other thing that he liked was wrestling. And